Hello everyone and welcome to another Contention Tactics Guide, where this time we're looking at doing SEAD operations on BlueFor, so taking on those rather impressive RedFor SAM sites. And yep, this is more challenging on BlueFor than it is on Red, because the RedFor SAM sites have a lot more going for them, a lot more variety, a lot more specialization, and very importantly, they have some really impressive point defense. But let's jump in and see how we handle this. So to begin with, we're going to have a little bit of an overview on what you're going to be facing when you are heading out against the RedFor SAM systems. I'm not going to go into as much detail as I did when I did how to set up the RedFor SAM system, so I'll put a link there here. Also, if you want to know more details of any particular system, I do highly recommend checking out DCS Chopsticks videos. He does some excellent overviews of all of these systems. So number one thing to bear in mind with facing off against the RedFor SAM systems is don't let the numbers fool you. Even low-numbered SAM sites are very, very, very dangerous. This is best shown off by the SA2. Perhaps the most dangerous system that you'll come across, simply because people tend to ignore it. It by far has the largest range of any RedFor SAM system. It can really hit out at incredible long distances, far beyond what your HARM missile can get at, and so this is a very, very dangerous system. It mostly suffers from the fact the missile itself is not great at tracking, so you can evade it, you can outmaneuver it, and it is also has severe trouble with tracking targets that are low to the ground, so you can also get around the system by getting very, very low. But still, when it is launched at you, you should be careful. It can absolutely take you down, and if you ignore that little RWR beep, it can and will destroy you. In comparison, the SA3 has a lot lower range but does better at low-level tracking. This one you can very often get quite close to if you're using 88, and if that fails, you can just attack it from multiple angles if you've got another pilot there with you. It can only really track one target at a time, so if you're attacking from two different positions, it really, really struggles. The SA6 and SA8 are quite similar in their ranges, the difference being the SA8 is one single unit, whereas the SA6 is multiple different units. When it comes to attacking them, it's broadly the same, but the nice thing about attacking SA8 is once you've taken it down, it is down. The SA6, just like the SA3 and SA2, you're going to have to then follow up and take out each of the individual launchers. One thing to bear in mind is the SA6 launchers do have a limited ability to track themselves, and so if you get too close to those, they can open fire even if you've taken down the radar. Then you've got the really important one, the SA15. When you spot this on your situational awareness view, it looks really, really low threat because it has a really short engagement range, to the point that you can quite happily fire Mavericks at this thing outside of its engagement range. Where it's dangerous is the fact that it can really target incoming missiles, even small missiles like Mavericks. It will have a go at shooting and is pretty reliable at shooting them down. Where this is really a problem is a lot of the sites that you are engaging will also have SA-15s there to provide point defense. And honestly, this is the biggest challenge for doing SEAD operations on BlueFor, is that if there is an SA-15 on site, you can pretty much guarantee that at least one of your missiles will be shot down. Generally, you want to be firing off as many missiles as possible to overwhelm the site. Definitely do not try and be precious with your missiles. You want to be launching many of them all at the same time so that many of them are inbound all together, so that the SA-15 has a limited number that it can engage before those missiles hit home. This is also why we'll look at a bit later tactics involving using Mavericks as opposed to your 88s, because the Mavericks, you can fire off more of them, they're a little bit harder to track, and very often they do a better job at dealing with SA-15s. Then we've got the Strela 9P, the SA-19 Tunguska, and the HQ-7EO. All of these are either IR-guided or electro-optically guided sites, so you won't get any RWR pings with these. Most of them are vulnerable to flares, but not all of them. The real advantage you have here is they're very, very short range. You need to be kind of on top of them for them to be able to launch. The downside is by the time you are in range and they do launch on you, you've only got a couple of seconds to react before that missile hits home. Yeah, the big trouble here is finding the things. You can't rely on any EWR pods helping you for this, and so you're going to have to generally find these by seeing previous launches, either launches that have been sent up at you or ones that are going up on your wingmen and allies. Avoiding these sites is easy enough. If you stay above about 13,000 feet, you will be above their engagement range, so you can just ignore them. But if you are planning on taking these out to, say, help helicopters go in, then ideally do this in a pair. One person can go searching for these, the other can follow along. And then finally, we've got our gun systems, the ZSU-23 Shilka, ZSU-57, the Ural or the Hilux with a 23 on the back. These are all pretty similar. The Shilka is radar guided with 4 23mm guns. The others just have a pair of guns. The 57 has heavier guns. All of these are pretty short range. They will do a horrendous amount of damage if you do linger and stay moving in one direction. As long as you are changing your path, they do have a real hard time getting hits there. Now, with the exception of the radar-guided Shilka, you'll mostly notice these when they do open up, so just keep your eyes out. If you're flying with a wingman, make sure you alert them to any incoming fire so they can take evasive action. And then it's just a case of, just like the IR systems, give yourself a bit of distance, come back in and take those out now that you know where they are. The final one is the KS-19. This is a heavy flak system. As it stands right now, the flak system does not have its fire can radar system on the server. And this is kind of a double-edged sword. This means that, yes, the gun is vastly more inaccurate, but it still can engage planes up to a very high altitude, up to ridiculous altitudes. It can hit up to sort of 48,000 feet, I believe. And a hit with one of these is definitely going to cause you trouble. Most aircraft will be taken out with a single hit, or at least crippled with a single hit. The advantage is it's not that likely to hit you. Even a relatively fast-moving helicopter is going to be able to avoid these as long as you bob and weave a fair bit. The main issue is it can be incredibly hard to see where this is coming from, so really, really good to use any kind of recon ahead of time to spot where these are. Now, before we look at some of the particular tactics for certain airframes going up against these sites, I did just want to give a few general pointers here. One we've already kind of covered there is recon really, really helps at finding any of the non-radar systems, whether that is helicopters going in and using FAC to mark targets, or high-altitude recon, or the JTACs that are available. This is really, really useful at taking these out, so it is well worth doing a recon run first, and then following up along with your SEAD run. Another point that's really important is with all of the sites with multiple different actual units there, so that is the SA2, the SA3, and the SA6. In order for that site to be considered truly dead, every single one of those needs to be taken out. If there are surviving units, then all an enemy helicopter has to do is land a single repair crate, and that entire site comes back online. So you really do have to do your job, clear everything off there, and so it is genuinely dead. Those sites do tend to be a very long time in building, and so once you've taken them out, that is a big setback for the enemy, but if you only partially damage them, it's not really going to be good enough. Then finally, one thing that was brought up on my previous RedFor SEAD video is, yes, it is going to be difficult. I am covering the theory here of how to go in and take these out, but there are going to be enemy players out there, and enemy players are going to be more than happy to hunt you down, and that is a big challenge. The best thing that you can do here is see if you can get yourself some support. Now, that could be in the form of flying with a friend, flying with other community members. There are multiple different DCS communities that do play on Contention, and so many of those have Discord servers. I do run a Discord server as well that we very often coordinate flights with. Or if you don't feel like joining a community, you can very much just use SRS a lot of the time. If you let cap pilots know that you're going to be operating SEAD in a particular area and ask for cap, generally people will head over that direction. Very often the random people that you find over SRS won't be too dedicated to protecting you, but if you just put more bodies in that area, it's going to be less people going against you. Still, yes, you will be shot down from time to time. That is just part of a PvP game, and it's just a case of then trying something else, trying something different, maybe use a different tactic, or just go up again and try your luck once more. In terms of how to take these sites out, really your best tool is the HARM missile. The AGM-88Cs are very, very long range. They can do a lot of damage to a site, and you can launch them in pretty much safety. And nicely enough, the F-18 can carry 4 of these, and so you can absolutely whip all of these off and take down even well-defended networks. So in terms of actually carrying out the attack, what you're going to want to do ideally is be as high in altitude as possible for using HARMs. That gives them the best range and gives you a lot of altitude to play with. And so what I'm going to do is make sure Master Arm is on, go to air to ground mode, select HARMs, and I want the target of opportunity mode. Really, really useful mode here when you're just looking around for targets. Do make sure that you've got this screen selected as soy with this little diamond in the corner. Now what you can do with this mode is your HARM seeker head itself will be looking ahead and picking up contacts, and this is its point of view of the contacts. We can cycle between contacts using the FLIR raid button. And so we can cycle between all of these that we've got here, and very nicely it does paint exactly where these are on your HUD. I'm also going to bring up my situational awareness page, because if anything is known in the area, this will tell me what the engagement ranges are. So here I can see I'm going for this joint SA2 and SA15 site, and I can see the SA2 engagement ranges here. Now once I am happy that I've got the target I want, what I can do is press the cage uncage button to perform a handoff. Now the missile attempts to get a lock. If I get H off, that means that it has achieved a lock. If you're having trouble getting that to work, do make sure that this is soy. Now you see here I'm approaching their engagement range, so they are starting to lock me up, which is absolutely fine. So this SA2 here is locking me up. I'm just going to get a little bit closer. And then because I know this site is defended by SA-15s, I'm going to go for a saturation attack. I want to launch as many missiles as I can before breaking away. So there's 1 away, 2 away, it loads back up the next one, flick onto a different target, hand off, another SA-15, last one, search radar, hand off, that is all my missiles away. Now I can afford to go evasive. Now I do want these things to continue locking me for a while. I do have some time here. I can see they have been launching at me. So I'm just putting them on my wing, diving down a bit, not too worried, so I'm at a long range. I can see the spotting dot of the missile now, so I just want to start evading a lot harder now. There it is. Turn hard. There we go, it's defeated. Diving down to the deck, because I'm against an SA-2, so that has issues with detecting targets near to the ground. And then I'm just going to extend out here. And there we go, see that the SA-15 is going to try and shoot down my missiles. That is just part and parcel of what is going to happen with these sites. But with launching those kind of saturation attacks with multiple different launches going in, you can see there that I did quite a lot of damage in the end. So there we go, we've taken out the SA-2's track radar, its search radar, and there were two SA-15s guarding the site. We took one of them out. Now one thing you can very much see here is, although the harms are very, very good at taking out the ability of these sites to launch missiles back, they do not clear out these sites. There are still plenty of launches left, so all it takes is one helicopter to come along, park a repair crate in that, and it's back online and up to full strength. So really what you want to be doing is following this up with another attack to take out your rest of your ground targets. You can also definitely see there that, well, that's still targets alive. One of the SA-15s is still happily there. And so really, if I want to clear this up and make sure that I clear this up, I really could do with doing this in a two-ship. That way you can attack with even more missiles. Or you have the option of each carrying 2 harms, so you still fire off the same number of harms, but then you've got Mavericks or other things ready to clear up the site afterwards. Now the exact opposite approach that you can try is going for very low level Maverick attacks. You can use Mavericks if the Mavericks outrange the SAM site that you're looking at, or if you have the opportunity to get in very, very close to even longer range SAM sites. The problem is if you don't have any kind of anti-radiation missile, you're going to be struggling finding these things. You've got to rely on your RWR or visually acquiring the targets, or if you've got a targeting pod, so you're flying the A-10C2, you then need to look for them on the targeting pod. This means this works best when you're attacking areas you know the enemy are on, so that is either pre-scouted locations or, for example, airfields. This also works really well for attacking SA-2 sites because those struggle to acquire low-level targets. The idea here is you really want to get as close as you possibly can before letting rip with your Mavericks. Really, because the Mavericks do struggle to lock at longer and longer ranges. So try and terrain mask where possible. Here I'm using the city to mask me. You can see I've got a Cub site somewhere up ahead. I just don't want to give it time to lock me. I'm going to stay low here. Now I want to do my pop-up. There we go, see targets on the targeting pod. And it's just a case of not really worrying about what you are locking, just fire on things. And you may very well need to go evasive before you get all of your missiles off. The advantage here is that you have a lot of Mavericks, so even if the site is defended by, say, an SA-15, you can put out a lot of damage in a very short period of time. So do bear in mind, if you're doing this in an A-10, you've got loads of flares and chaff, so do use those. So okay, I've done some damage to the site. It's definitely not down, but I've damaged it. And I can always just give myself a little bit of room make sure I continue to terrain mask as much as I possibly can, and then come around for another strike on this thing. So here I am just trying to start this run again, going to pop up a little bit earlier this time. Just trying to get locks on anything. The first thing that I get a lock on, I will fire on. That didn't work very well. Come on. On the bright side, the SA-15 was too busy shooting at my Mavericks, so I did actually manage to continue to engage. That means the SA-15 has been overloaded, and now I can just run in. I've taken bombs as well here. So there we go, load of targets hit. I definitely could have pulled away there if I didn't want to engage the AAA that they've got present. But you can see that I've done a lot of damage to this site. It's not quite dead, but that is a hell of a lot of damage in a very quick amount of time. Now we can do something very similar with the A10C2 or the A10C. This time your big advantage is you do have a targeting pod, which means you can get eyes on the target at a much greater range and get everything ready for your engagement. So here I am popping up. Good eyes on the target area, and see right there is the target that I want to engage. That is the Cub radar. And so I've got that assigned as my speed. And then with that locked in, now I can dive back down, do the approach nicely on ground level, but knowing that I now have that location locked in and ready. It also means that I've got a bit more accurate ranging data. I know this is at 5.5 miles, I know this is within the Maverick launch range. I do just want to get a little bit closer because it's quite a cluster target, want to make sure I can get those locks in. So I'm now attempting my pull-up, got a lock on something, just want to get missiles off in the area. Not having luck getting the locks, so going to dive back down. Try and break their lock. That is a missile going after my Maverick. Alright, now just trying saturation tactics, fire as many missiles off as I can. They will be launching on my Mavericks more than me. That is all 6 Mavericks away. Now I just need to turn and go evasive. So you can see at that time I got away safely, and I have managed to take out the Cub radar, a Cub launcher, a couple of vehicles that had been scattered here to confuse incoming Mavericks, and did get the SA-15 there as well. So the site isn't completely cleaned up, but that is this site now with an inability to launch its missiles, and so I could certainly turn back in with, say, bombs, or do a follow-up run to tidy up what is left there. So yeah, there are certainly other ways that you can go about doing all of this. Other airframes do absolutely work. These are just the ones that I am the most practiced in, so these are the ones that I know how to do this with, and so feel up to giving a guide for. But there are certainly other ways that you can try, other avenues that you can try, different tactics. Find something that works for you. Now, if you have any questions about any of this, please do let me know. And otherwise, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers.